Hyun-soo stared at the screen and felt his blood turn cold. 37 minutes ago, something impossible had happened at monitoring station Omega-7. A massive ship had appeared in space near the gas giant Velthara. Not arrived, not warped in, not dropped out of hyperspace. It had simply appeared as if it had always been there. The coffee in his hands had gone cold long ago. Station Commander Hyun-soo had seen many strange things in his 20 years of service to the Kethvar Empire. Space pirates using stolen technology, alien vessels with weird designs, even dimensional rifts that spat out ships from other realities. But nothing like this. "Run the scan again," he told Chief Analyst Sora for the 4th time. Sora's hands shook as she worked the controls. Her usually perfect hair was messy now, strands falling across her face as she bent over the sensor array. "Sir, the readings are the same. The ship is 3 kilometers long. Our scanners can barely see through its hull. The materials register as both solid matter and pure energy at the same time." Hyun-soo walked closer to the main display. The holographic image showed a ship unlike anything in the Empire's vast database. The Kethvar had contact with over 40,000 different alien species across 12 galactic arms. They had seen ships shaped like crystals, living creatures, geometric patterns that hurt to look at, even vessels made of pure thought. But this ship followed no known rules of design or physics. "What about the power readings?" Hyun-soo asked. Dong-hyun looked up from his workstation. The xenobiology specialist was usually calm and quiet, but now his eyes were wide with fear. "Sir, the energy output is beyond our instrument's ability to measure. The readings keep changing every few seconds. Sometimes it shows enough power to fuel 1,000 worlds. Sometimes it shows nothing at all." Sora wiped sweat from her forehead. "Commander, there's something else. The ship's mass readings don't make sense. According to our sensors, it should be creating massive gravitational distortions. It should be tearing apart the fabric of space-time itself. But look at the space around it." The hologram zoomed in on the area surrounding the mysterious vessel. Space looked completely normal. No bent light, no warped time fields, no gravitational waves. The massive ship sat in the void as if it weighed nothing at all. "Have we tried to contact them?" Hyun-soo asked. "Yes, sir. 17 different attempts," said Communications Officer Ha-na. "All standard frequencies, plus emergency channels and even the old diplomatic protocols. No response." Hyun-soo studied the ship again. Its surface seemed to shift and change as he watched, like looking at water that couldn't decide if it wanted to be liquid or solid. Strange patterns moved across its hull, geometric shapes that formed and dissolved in ways that made his head hurt. "Sir," Dong-hyun called out, his voice tight with worry, "I've been comparing the ship's design to every known species in our database. There are no matches, not even close ones. This vessel doesn't follow any engineering principles we've ever encountered." The station's artificial gravity hummed quietly in the background. Outside the viewports, stars wheeled slowly as Omega-7 continued its orbit around Velthara. Everything seemed normal except for the impossible ship hanging in space like a 3-kilometer question mark. "Try hailing them again," Hyun-soo ordered. "Use all frequencies simultaneously." Hana's fingers danced across her console. "Broadcasting now on all channels, sir. Standard greeting protocols in 47 different languages." They waited. Seconds stretched into minutes. The mysterious ship continued to float in space, its surface patterns shifting in hypnotic ways. Hyun-soo found himself holding his breath. Then every screen in the command center lit up at once. The message appeared not as audio or video, but as text that somehow wrote itself directly onto every display in perfect Kethvarian script. Observing. Do not interfere. Hana stared at her console in shock. Sir, that message didn't come through our communication systems. It bypassed everything. It just appeared on our screens like it was always there. How is that possible? Hyun-soo demanded. I don't know, sir. Our communication protocols are isolated systems. Nothing should be able to access them directly without going through our receivers first. So-Ra was running new scans, her hands moving quickly over the controls. Commander, the ship is doing something. Energy readings are spiking across all spectrums. On the main display, the mysterious vessel began to shimmer. Not like a ship preparing to jump to hyperspace or activate dimensional drives. It shimmered like heat waves rising from hot pavement, except they were in the vacuum of space. Are they powering weapons? Hyun-soo asked, reaching for the alert button. No, sir, Dong-hyun replied, studying his readings. The energy pattern is completely different. It's like they're preparing to... The ship vanished. Not into hyperspace with the bright flash of faster-than-light drives. Not into a dimensional rift with the characteristic purple glow of phase technology. It simply stopped existing on all their sensors simultaneously. One moment it was there, the next moment it was gone, as if it had never existed at all. The command center fell silent except for the quiet hum of life support systems. Everyone stared at the empty space where the impossible ship had been floating just seconds before. Sensor sweep, Hyun-soo ordered quietly. Full spectrum analysis of the area. So-Ra worked her controls with shaking hands. Sir, there's nothing there. No residual energy, no quantum signatures, no gravitational disturbances. It's like the ship was never there at all. But we have 47 minutes of recorded data, Hana said, checking her logs. The recordings are all here. Visual, sensor data, energy readings, everything. Hyun-soo looked around at his crew. So-Ra was still running scans, desperate to find some trace of what they had witnessed. Dong-hyun was double-checking the xenobiology database, hoping to find some explanation for what they had seen. Hana was reviewing the communication logs, trying to understand how the message had appeared on their screens. Prepare a complete report, Hyun-soo said finally. Everything we recorded, every reading we took, every scan we ran. Send it to Imperial. Command with highest priority encoding. Sir, So-Ra asked quietly. What do we tell them? Hyun-soo looked at the empty space on the main display where the ship had been. 47 minutes that would change everything they thought they knew about the universe. 47 minutes of data that proved they were not alone in ways they had never imagined. We tell them the truth, he said. An unknown ship appeared in our space using technology we can't understand. It observed us for 47 minutes. Told us not to interfere, then vanished without a trace. And we tell them that whatever we just encountered, it's more advanced than anything the Empire has ever seen. The crew worked in silence, preparing reports that would soon reach the highest levels of the Kethvar Empire. None of them knew that similar reports were already sitting in classified files across dozens of other galactic governments. None of them realized that 47 minutes of observation would lead to the largest military mobilization in Imperial history, and none of them suspected that they had just been evaluated by judges whose verdict had never once been favorable to any civilization they had encountered. Director Minho sat in the largest conference room on Kethvar Prime, staring at data that made no sense. The report from monitoring station Omega-7 had reached Imperial Command 18 hours ago. Since then, the Empire's best scientists had been pulled from their research, their vacation time, even their sleep, to analyze 47 minutes of impossible recordings. The holographic display in the center of the room showed the mysterious ship from every angle the station's sensors had captured. Minho had watched the recordings dozens of times now, and each viewing only made the situation more confusing. The ship violated every law of physics he knew, yet it clearly existed. The evidence was right there in front of him. Dr. Yunji, what have you found? Minho asked the woman sitting across from him. Dr. Yunji was the Empire's leading theoretical physicist. She had spent her entire career studying the fundamental forces that held the universe together. Now she looked tired and confused, her usually neat laboratory coat wrinkled from working through the night. Director, the readings don't make sense, she said, pointing at the data streaming across her tablet. Look at this energy output analysis. The ship produces more power than our largest star reactors, but it generates no heat signature at all. That's impossible. Energy always creates heat when it's converted from one form to another. Minho leaned forward. What else? The mass readings are even stranger, Yunji continued. According to our sensors, that ship weighs more than a small moon, but it doesn't affect gravity around it at all. When something that massive exists in space, it should bend space-time itself. Stars should shift in their positions. Nearby planets should change their orbits. But nothing happened. At the far end of the table, Intelligence Officer Taemin was reviewing classified files on his secure terminal. His job was to know about every threat to the Empire, but this ship had appeared in their databases like a ghost story. Director? Taemin called out. I found something disturbing. This isn't the first time ships like this have been reported. The room went quiet. Minho turned to face the intelligence officer. Explain. Taemin stood up and activated his own holographic display. Files and reports appeared in the air, dates and locations scrolling past quickly. I've been searching through classified reports from across the galaxy. In the past 100 years, similar ships have been spotted in 18 different sectors. 18? Dr. Yunji asked. Why weren't these reports shared with the scientific community? Because each government classified them as top secret, Taemin replied. Nobody wanted to admit they had encountered technology they couldn't understand. But the pattern is clear. The ships always appear without warning, observe for less than 1 hour, then vanish completely. Minho studied the files floating in front of him. Each report described the same thing. Massive ships with impossible technology, brief periods of observation, then disappearance without a trace. What happened to the civilizations that encountered them? Taemin's expression grew dark. That's the disturbing part, sir. Each civilization that reported these encounters underwent significant changes in the following decades. Not conquest or destruction, but subtle alterations that only became obvious years later. What kind of changes? Yunji asked. Their technology stopped advancing as quickly. Their expansion into new star systems slowed down. Their military capabilities seemed to hit an invisible ceiling they couldn't break through. Taemin brought up charts and graphs showing the decline. It's like they were somehow limited after the encounters. Dr. Yunji was studying her tablet again, running new calculations. Director, I've discovered something else about the ship's behavior during those 47 minutes. The fundamental constants of physics changed in the space around it. What do you mean? Minho asked. Gravity didn't work the same way. Time flowed at different rates in different areas around the ship. Even the speed of light seemed to change. She showed them her analysis on the main display. It's as if the ship exists in its own pocket of reality where the basic rules of the universe can be rewritten. Minho felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying they can control the laws of physics? I'm saying they can ignore them when they want to, Yunji replied. The technology required for that level of control over reality itself is beyond anything we can imagine. We're not just dealing with advanced aliens. We're dealing with beings who treat the foundations of existence like tools they can modify at will. A new voice spoke from the conference room's entrance. Then we need to be prepared for war. Everyone turned to see Regent Boram walking into the room. The Empire's military leader looked tired but determined. Behind her came a group of high-ranking officers and government officials. Regent, Minho said, standing up. We were just analyzing the data from the encounter. I've read the preliminary reports, Boram said, taking a seat at the head of the table. An unknown ship with impossible technology appears in our space, watches us, then disappears. That sounds like reconnaissance to me. Taemin shared his findings about the other encounters. Regent, based on the historical pattern, this might not be preparation for invasion. The ships seem to observe civilizations and then somehow limit their development. Limit how? Boram demanded. We don't know the mechanism, Taemin admitted. But every civilization that has encountered these ships has seen their technological and military progress slow down significantly within a few decades of the sighting. Boram was quiet for a long moment, studying the data displays around the room. Finally, she spoke. I don't care what their intentions are. No one limits the Kethvar Empire. If these beings think they can control our development, they're wrong. Doctor, Yunji looked worried. Regent, with respect, we have no idea what we're dealing with. Their technology is so far beyond ours that our weapons might not even be able to damage them. Then we'll build better weapons, Boram replied firmly. I'm authorizing the largest military mobilization in Imperial history. Every ship, every weapon, every defensive system we have will be upgraded and prepared for combat. Against enemies who can rewrite the laws of physics? Yunji asked. Against enemies who think they're gods, Boram corrected. History has shown us that every empire, no matter how powerful, has weaknesses. We just need to find theirs. Minho watched as the regent began issuing orders to her officers. Military production facilities would be expanded. Research into new weapons would begin immediately. Every ship in the Imperial fleet would be recalled and upgraded with the most advanced technology available. But as he looked at the impossible readings from the mysterious ship, Minho couldn't shake the feeling that they were preparing to fight something that existed beyond the normal rules of warfare. How do you battle enemies who can change reality itself? Dr. Yunji must have been thinking the same thing. She leaned over to whisper to him as the military officials discussed battle plans. Director, what if this isn't about war at all? What if they're trying to protect something? Protect what? Minho whispered back. The galaxy, she replied quietly. What if they limit aggressive civilizations to prevent them from spreading violence to other worlds? Minho looked at the data again, seeing it in a new light. If that was true, then the Empire's massive military buildup might be exactly the wrong response. It might be proving to these mysterious observers that the Kethvar were exactly the kind of aggressive species that needed to be limited. But as he watched Regent Boram plan for the greatest war in Imperial history, Minho knew it was too late to change course. The Empire had made its choice. Soon they would discover whether their military might could stand against beings who treated the laws of physics as mere suggestions. Scholar Jinwoo pushed aside another stack of ancient texts and rubbed his tired eyes. He had been working in the great library of Thessarian for 6 days straight, searching through records that most people had forgotten existed. The library. World held knowledge from across the galaxy, including documents from civilizations that had vanished thousands of years ago. The message from Imperial Command had been simple. Find any historical references to ships similar to the one encountered. At Omega 7, Jinwoo had expected to find nothing. Instead, he had discovered something that made his hands shake as he read. The first reference was in a collection of myths from the Velthari people, who had ruled a small empire 8,000 years ago. They wrote about sky demons that appeared, without warning, watched their fleets, then disappeared. Within 3 centuries, the Velthari had stopped expanding into new systems. Their technology had stagnated. Eventually, they had faded into history. The second reference came from the archives of the Korthak Federation, dated 5,000 years ago. They called them the Silent Judges, and described ships that could bend the very fabric of reality to their will. The Korthak had been a warlike species that conquered dozens of worlds. After their encounter with the mysterious ships, their military campaigns had gradually ended. Their empire had slowly crumbled. The third reference was the most detailed. The Zephyrian Collective had been an advanced civilization that had mastered faster-than-light travel and energy manipulation. Their records spoke of Watchers from the Void who appeared during a major military operation. The ships had observed the Zephyrian fleet for exactly 43 minutes, then vanished. The Zephyrians had tried to continue their expansion, but their technology had mysteriously stopped improving. Their weapons became less effective. Their ships moved more slowly. Within 200 years, they had retreated to their home systems and eventually died out completely. Jinwoo found 12 different civilizations that had written about similar encounters. All of them had been powerful, expanding empires. All of them had fallen into decline after meeting the mysterious ships. The pattern was clear and terrifying. He activated his communication device and sent an urgent message to Imperial Command. The Kethvar Empire was not the first to encounter these beings, and history suggested they would not be the last. 3 star systems away, Captain Subin stood on the bridge of the Imperial battleship Eternal Flame, staring at something that should not exist. Her task force had been sent to investigate one of the locations where the mysterious ships had been spotted 2 years ago. What they found challenged everything she knew about space and physics. "Captain," called Navigation Officer J-Ho, "the star is in the wrong position." Subin looked at the tactical display. The red giant star that anchored this system was exactly where their charts said it should be, but the stellar cartography, computers were showing massive discrepancies. According to the historical records, this star should have been 40 million kilometers further away from the center of the system. "Run a full gravitational analysis," Subin ordered. Chief Science. Officer Yansu worked at her station, her face growing pale as the results appeared. "Captain, the gravitational patterns in this system don't match natural formation. Someone or something has moved the star from its original position." "Moved a star?" Subin asked. "That's impossible." "Not just moved it, Captain. Look at these readings." Yansu transferred her data to the main screen. "The planets in this system have been repositioned too. Their orbits have been carefully adjusted to maintain the same temperatures and conditions they had before the star was moved. The level of precision required for this kind of stellar engineering is beyond anything we can imagine." Subin studied the data in amazement. Moving a star required the ability to manipulate gravitational forces on a massive scale. Repositioning entire planets while maintaining their environments meant understanding physics at a level that made the Empire's most advanced technology look like stone tools. "Captain," Communications Officer Min Jung reported, "we're receiving a message from the research vessel Quantum Dawn. They want to share their findings with us." "Put them through," Subin said. The face of Dr. Jae Sung appeared on the main screen. The scientist looked excited and frightened at the same time. His research ship had been studying energy residue left behind by one of the mysterious vessels. "Captain Subin," Jae Sung said, "we've made a breakthrough in analyzing the energy signatures. The readings suggest technology that can manipulate matter at the quantum level with perfect precision." "What does that mean in simple terms, Doctor?" Subin asked. "It means they can rewrite the fundamental structure of reality in any way they choose. They can change the properties of atoms, alter the behavior of energy, even modify the flow of time itself. With this level of control, they could reshape entire star systems as easily as we might rearrange furniture in a room." Subin felt a chill run through her. "Are you saying they're gods?" "I'm saying they have godlike power over the physical universe," Jae Sung replied. "But Captain, there's something else. The energy residue shows signs of careful restraint. They used only the minimum amount of power necessary for whatever they were doing. It's like they were being deliberately careful not to cause unnecessary damage." The communication ended, leaving Subin alone with her thoughts. Around her, the bridge crew worked quietly, trying to understand how an entire star system had been rearranged by unknown beings. The implications were staggering. If these mysterious ships could move stars and planets, what could they do to the Kethvar Empire if they chose to act? Back on the capital world, pattern analyst Ye Jin was discovering the most chilling truth of all. She had been tasked with analyzing all the historical data about civilizations that had encountered the mysterious ships. The results were worse than anyone had expected. Ye Jin sat in her small office, surrounded by holographic displays showing the rise and fall of dozens of galactic empires. She had traced the history of every civilization that had reported encounters with the unknown ships. The pattern was consistent and terrifying. Every single civilization had fallen, not through conquest or invasion, but through a gradual process that took centuries to complete. First, their technological advancement would slow down. New discoveries became rare. Innovation stopped. Then their expansion into new territories would halt. They would stop colonizing new worlds, stop building new ships, stop reaching for the stars. Finally, their civilizations would begin to shrink. They would abandon outer colonies. Trade between worlds would decrease. Eventually, they would retreat to their core systems and slowly fade from galactic history. Ye Jin had found records of 47 different civilizations that had followed this exact pattern. All of them had been powerful, aggressive empires when they first encountered the mysterious ships. All of them had been reduced to footnotes in history books within a few centuries. The data suggested that the Kethvar Empire was not facing an invasion or a war. They were facing judges whose verdict on galactic civilizations had never once been favorable. These beings evaluated expanding empires and found them wanting. Then they imposed limitations that eventually led to the civilization's decline and fall. Ye Jin prepared her report with shaking hands. The empire's leaders needed to know that they were not just facing an unknown enemy. They were facing beings who had been systematically limiting aggressive civilizations across the galaxy for thousands of years. Beings who had never allowed a warlike empire to continue its expansion unchecked. As she sent her findings to Imperial Command, Yejin wondered if it was already too late. The Empire was preparing for the largest military mobilization in its history. They were building weapons and gathering fleets to fight an enemy that treated the laws of physics as suggestions. But what if the real test was not about military strength? What if these mysterious watchers were waiting to see if the HFY Empire could choose a different path? What if the key to survival was not building better weapons, but becoming something better than a conquering empire? The answers would come soon enough. The pattern suggested that the mysterious ships would return, and when they did, the Empire would discover whether they were capable of passing a test that no other civilization in galactic history had ever managed to pass. Admiral Kyung-ho stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Thunder of HFY, watching the largest fleet in galactic history take position around monitoring station Omega-7. 3 months had passed since the mysterious ship's first appearance. 3 months of frantic preparation, weapon upgrades, and military buildup. The fleet stretched across space in all directions. Over 2,000 vessels from the HFY Empire and 7 allied species floated in perfect formation. Battleships the size of cities bristled with antimatter cannons. Destroyers equipped with quantum disruptors moved between the larger ships like deadly sharks. Fighter squadrons patrolled the outer edges of the formation, their pilots eager for battle. "Admiral," reported Fleet Communications Officer Hana, "all ships are in position and ready for combat. Weapon systems are charged and targeting computers are online." Kyung-ho nodded, studying the tactical display that showed every ship in his massive fleet. This was the combined military might of multiple civilizations, enough firepower to crack planets and shatter moons. If the mysterious ships returned, they would face the greatest concentration of destructive power the galaxy had ever assembled. "Sir," called sensor operator Minsu, "we're detecting spatial distortions in the exact location where the unknown vessel first appeared." Every eye on the bridge turned to the main display. Space itself seemed to ripple and bend near the gas. Giant Velthara. The distortion grew larger, reality twisting in ways that made the sensors struggle to maintain lock. Then it appeared. The mysterious ship materialized in exactly the same spot where it had vanished 3 months ago, as if no time had passed at all. But this time, it was not alone. Dozens of similar vessels began appearing throughout the star system, each one unique in design, yet clearly from the same impossible civilization. "Multiple contacts," Minsu reported, his voice tight with fear. 47 ships total, spread across the entire system. Each one measures between 2 and 4 kilometers in length. Kyung-ho felt his mouth go dry. 47 ships against over 2,000. The numbers were in the Empire's favor, but he remembered the reports about these vessels' impossible technology. Numbers might not matter against beings who could ignore the laws of physics. "Admiral," Hana said, "we're receiving a transmission from the lead vessel." "Put it through," Kyung-ho ordered. The message appeared on every screen in the fleet simultaneously, just as it had 3 months ago. But this time, the text was longer and more detailed. Evaluation period concluded. Species classification, aggressive expansionist. Technological development, plateau reached. Cultural evolution, stagnant. Recommendation, limitation protocols. Authorized. A chill ran down Kyung-ho's spine. The message read like a scientific report, cold and factual. They were being judged, and the verdict was clearly unfavorable. "All ships," Kyung-ho broadcast to the fleet, "prepare to engage hostile targets. Fire at will." The space around Omega-7 erupted in light and energy. 2,000 ships opened fire simultaneously, unleashing every weapon in their arsenal. Antimatter torpedoes streaked through the void, each one capable of destroying a city. Quantum disruptors fired beams of pure destruction that could tear apart the atomic bonds holding matter together. Plasma cannons launched balls of stellar fire hot enough to melt starship hulls in seconds. The energy discharge was so massive it could be seen from neighboring star systems. Space itself seemed to catch fire as thousands of weapons struck the mysterious ships at once. The light was blinding, the energy readings off every scale the fleet's instruments could measure. When the light finally faded, Kyung-ho stared at the display in disbelief. All 47 mysterious ships remained exactly where they had been. Not damaged, not moved, not even scratched. They floated serenely in space as if the massive attack had never happened. Some kind of barrier surrounded each vessel, invisible shields that had absorbed the combined firepower of the largest fleet in galactic history without showing any sign of strain. "Impossible," whispered Weapons Officer Dalho. "That was enough firepower to destroy a solar system. How are they still intact?" "Admiral," Engineering Officer Wu Jin called out from his station, "I'm reading massive energy buildups from the unknown vessels. They're preparing to return fire." Kyung-ho gripped the arms of his command chair. "All ships, evasive maneuvers. Prepare for incoming." He stopped mid-sentence as he realized the mysterious ships were not powering weapons. Instead, they were doing something far more terrifying. The space around the Imperial fleet began to change. "Sir," Wu Jin reported, his voice filled with terror, "they're not attacking us. They're changing the fundamental properties of space itself." On the main display, Kyung-ho watched as reality became fluid around his fleet. The stars in the background began to shift position. The color of space itself changed from black to deep purple, then to silver, then to colors that had no names. The gas giant Velthara seemed to stretch and compress like rubber. "What's happening to our weapons?" Kyung-ho demanded. Wu Jin was frantically checking his instruments. "Admiral, our weapon systems are being altered at the molecular level. The antimatter torpedoes are changing into something else. The quantum disruptors are being converted into I don't know what." Throughout the fleet, the same impossible transformation was taking place. On the destroyer Sharp Wind, Captain Su Jin watched in amazement as her ship's missile launchers reformed themselves into devices she didn't recognize. The weapons were still there, but they had been fundamentally changed. "Captain," her weapons. Officer reported, "The new systems are still functional, but they won't fire destructive payloads anymore. Somehow, they've been converted into tools that can only create, never destroy." The same thing was happening across the entire fleet. Every weapon system was being transformed by forces that treated the basic laws of physics like clay to be molded. Plasma cannons became matter constructors. Missile launchers turned into terraforming devices. Even the ship's defensive systems were changed, their shields becoming protective barriers that could only defend, never harm. But the most shocking transformation was happening to the ship's faster-than-light drives. Throughout the fleet, captains watched in horror as their FTL systems were fundamentally altered. The drives still worked, but they were now limited to sublight speeds that would confine each ship to its home star system. "Admiral," Communications Officer Hana reported, "I'm receiving reports from across the fleet. Every ship has been affected. All weapons have been converted to non-destructive tools. All FTL drives have been limited to sublight speeds." Kyung-ho slumped in his command chair. In less than 10 minutes, the greatest military force in galactic history had been rendered completely harmless. Not destroyed, not captured, but fundamentally changed into something that could never again threaten another civilization. The mysterious ships had not fired a single weapon. They had not destroyed a single vessel. Instead, they had done something far more devastating. They had removed the Empire's ability to wage war anywhere beyond their own star systems. "Sir," Min-Su called out, "the unknown vessels are moving into some kind of formation." On the display, the 47 ships arranged themselves in a perfect circle around the Imperial fleet. They hung in space like silent judges, their impossible technology having already delivered its verdict. The Kethvar Empire had been found wanting, and the sentence had been carried out with surgical precision. Kyung-ho realized that this had never been a battle. It had been an evaluation, and his civilization had failed the test. The mysterious ships had the power to destroy the fleet completely, but instead they had chosen a more merciful punishment. They had taken away the Empire's ability to spread violence, while leaving them alive to learn from their mistakes. As he watched the strange vessels maintain their vigil around his helpless fleet, Kyung-ho understood that they were facing beings, whose power was matched only by their restraint. Beings who could have been conquerors but had chosen to be teachers instead. Admiral Kyung-ho stared at his transformed fleet in stunned silence. Every weapon had been changed into something that could only create, never destroy. Every faster-than-light drive had been limited to speeds that would keep his ships trapped in their home systems. The greatest military force in galactic history had been rendered completely harmless in less than 10 minutes. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. The lead mysterious ship moved closer to the flagship Thunder of Kethvar. As it approached, its hull began to change, becoming transparent in places. Through the clear sections, Kyung-ho could see the ship's interior. What he saw made his blood freeze. The beings operating the vessel looked human. "Admiral," Communications Officer Hana said with a trembling voice, "we're receiving another transmission from the lead ship. This time it's audio and visual." "Put it through," Kyung-ho ordered, though part of him dreaded what he might see. The basho main screen flickered, then showed the bridge of the mysterious vessel. The figure that appeared wore no elaborate alien armor or breathing apparatus. Instead, a human man in a simple uniform looked back at them. His face was calm but serious, his eyes holding the weight of countless years. "I am Commander Davis of the Terran Preservation Corps," the man said in perfect Kethvarian. "I speak for humanity and the Galactic Council of Evolved Civilizations." Kyung-ho felt the bridge around him go completely silent. Even the background hum of life support systems seemed to quiet down. "You're human?" he managed to say. "We are what humanity became," Commander Davis replied. 50,000 years ago, my people faced the same choice your empire faces now. We could continue down the path of conquest and expansion, spreading violence across the galaxy. Or we could evolve beyond our aggressive nature and learn to protect rather than destroy. The image on the screen expanded to show more of the ship's bridge. Other humans worked at stations that seemed to be made of pure light and energy. Their technology was so advanced it looked like magic, yet they handled it with casual familiarity. "We chose evolution," Davis continued. "We learned to transcend the normal limitations of space and time. We developed the ability to reshape matter and energy at will. But most importantly, we learned that true strength comes not from the power to destroy, but from the wisdom to create and protect." Engineering Officer Woo Jin found his voice. "How long have you been watching us?" We have monitored your civilization for over 3 centuries, Davis answered. Every expanding empire eventually reaches a crossroads. They must choose between continued aggression and peaceful growth. We watch to see which path they will take. Admiral Kyung-ho felt anger rising in his chest. You had no right to judge us, no right to limit our expansion. We had every right, Davis replied firmly. Your empire has conquered 47 star systems in the past century alone. You have enslaved 6 different species. Your military doctrine is based on the complete destruction of anyone who opposes you. Left unchecked, you would spread violence and suffering across thousands of worlds. The human commander gestured, and new images appeared on the screen. They showed worlds that the Kethvar Empire had conquered, cities reduced to rubble, populations forced into slavery. Kyung-ho had seen these images before in military reports, but now they looked different. Now they looked like evidence of crimes. Every civilization we monitor faces the same test, Davis explained. When they encounter us, they have a choice. They can react with curiosity and diplomacy, showing they are ready to join the community of evolved species. Or they can react with violence and military force, proving they are too dangerous to be allowed unlimited expansion. And if they choose violence? Kyung-ho asked, though he already knew the answer. Then we implement limitation protocols, Davis said. We remove their ability to spread their aggression beyond their home systems. We give them time to grow and evolve. Some civilizations eventually learn from this experience. They develop peaceful cultures and are welcomed into the galactic community. Others fade away, unable to adapt to their new constraints. Communications Officer Hana leaned forward. How many civilizations have passed your test? Davis was quiet for a moment. In 50,000 years of monitoring, exactly 17 species have chosen diplomacy over violence when they first encountered us. Those 17 now work alongside humanity to guide and protect younger civilizations. And the others? Kyung-ho asked. Over 4,000 civilizations have chosen the path your empire just took. Most of them eventually disappeared from galactic history. A few learned from their limitations and later joined us as equals. The choice is always theirs to make. On his engineering station, Wu Jin was studying the readouts from the transformed weapons. Sir, I'm detecting something strange about the modifications they made to our ships. The changes aren't permanent. Davis nodded. The alterations will remain in place as long as your civilization maintains its aggressive nature. If your people learn to choose creation over destruction, protection over conquest, the limitations will gradually fade away. You're giving us a chance to change, Kyung-ho realized. We're giving you the same chance we give every species, Davis confirmed. Your weapons are now tools of creation. Your ships are now explorers, not conquerors. What you do with this gift will determine whether we meet again as equals or whether you join the archives of civilizations that could not evolve beyond their violent nature. The human commander stood up from his chair. Around him, his crew began preparing for departure. Admiral, your empire controlled 47 star systems through conquest and fear. You have the resources and knowledge to build a peaceful civilization that could span thousands of worlds. The question is whether you have the wisdom to choose that path. Kyung-ho watched as the mysterious ships began to move away from his fleet, but they didn't disappear this time. Instead, they transformed, their solid hulls becoming transparent, then translucent, then shifting through dimensions that existed beyond normal three-dimensional space. Where are you going? Kyung-ho called. Out, to continue our work, Davis replied. "There are dozens of other civilizations across the galaxy that need guidance. Some will choose wisdom. Others will choose war. We will be there to ensure that the violent ones cannot harm the peaceful ones." The human ships moved through realities that the Empire's scientists couldn't even theorize about. They traveled, not just through space, but through dimensions of existence that humanity had learned to navigate after 50,000 years of evolution. As the last ship faded from view, Kyung-ho was left alone with his thoughts and his transformed fleet. Around him, his officers sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had learned. Humanity had been watching the galaxy for millennia, protecting peaceful civilizations from aggressive ones. They had evolved beyond the need for conquest, beyond the desire for domination. They had become guardians of the galaxy, judges who evaluated younger species and guided them toward wisdom or contained them when they chose violence. The Kethavar Empire had failed their test, but they had been given a second chance. Their weapons could no longer destroy, only create. Their ships could no longer spread conquest beyond their home systems. But if they learned to use these limitations as opportunities for growth, they might eventually join the community of evolved civilizations that worked to protect the galaxy. Kyung-ho looked at his transformed fleet and realized that the Empire's greatest challenge was not defeating an enemy, but defeating themselves. They had to choose between clinging to their violent past or embracing a peaceful future. The humans had shown them that evolution was possible, that a species could grow beyond its aggressive nature and become something greater. The choice was theirs to make, and the future of their civilization depended on choosing wisely.